Nelson Mandela, because of course South Africans are praying for the health of their leader as the ailing anti-apartheid leader spends another day in hospital. It's the 94-year-old's third time in hospital this year. Many South Africans are praying for his recovery.
Mandela is always in our prayers. We wish him a speedy recovery.
I do pray generally for him, daily.
When we pray, we always say, God knows everything. God knows. I don't know, but God knows. Because even the doctors don't know.
He's the most important person in this country. But for now, I think it's in God's hands to decide his life.
Well, with me now on the phone is CNN Africa reporter Nkapele Mabuse. Nkapele, thanks for your time this morning. The latest on his condition, how do we understand he is?
Well, Rawdon, we have not received any new updates today, Sunday. You will remember that Mr. Mandela was rushed to hospital in the early hours of Saturday morning at exactly 1:30 in the morning, suffering from pneumonia. We understand that he had been ill for a couple of days, but that his condition was deteriorating. And you must understand, this is a man who's 94 years old, turning 95 next year. He has a mini ICU at his home in Johannesburg, in Houghton, where doctors watch him around the clock. So for him to be rushed to hospital at that kind of hour, doctors were worried enough about his condition that they felt they had to take him to a bigger facility so they could treat him. Now, yesterday we were told by the presidency, who basically in South Africa control all information and communicate all information around Mr. Mandela's health, that he was serious but stable. We were also told that he was breathing on his own, unaided, which the presidency said was a positive sign. But the whole of Saturday, people in South Africa waited for new updates on Mr. Mandela's health, and we have received absolutely no news. In the past, the presidency has said no news is good news, but you know, no news also makes a lot of people panic, not only here in South Africa, but around the world. And it's unlikely that at this hour, it's about 9 o'clock here in South Africa, that we will be getting an update. So people will be hoping that tomorrow they will hear more news on their beloved Nelson Mandela, a man that people affectionately call here Madiba. Gordon?
Nkapele, you mentioned this potential sense of panic, but I also understand that South Africa is effectively bracing itself at this stage for Mr. Mandela's passing. Do you sense that that is panic, or is there also maybe a sense of calm in the country, given that the lack of information being one thing, but the inevitability as well?
Look, Gordon, for many, many years, South Africans did not even want to confront the possibility of one day not having Nelson Mandela around. They have always prayed for him to recover every time he goes into hospital. But he's been in and out of hospital since December 4 times. And every time South Africans have had to actually start to confront the fact that he is mortal. And I think what has had a huge impact on many South Africans is that in April, fresh new pictures of Mr. Mandela were broadcast on national and international television of an old, frail, fragile, ailing man. He had not been seen in public since 2010, since the closing ceremony of the World Cup. So people didn't actually know what he looked like. And when they saw him in April, many South Africans were, number one, happy and glad that he was still alive because they hadn't seen him for such a long time, but saddened by the fact that he was so frail and fragile. You know, there was a photo opportunity with the current president, Jacob Zuma, and Mr. Zuma touched Mr. Mandela's hand, and he almost did not respond at all, unresponsive. And that is not the kind of man that people remembered in Mr. Mandela. They remembered the vibrant man who used to dance, although he was old even when he came out of prison. He's always stood up strong, and he's always presented himself with so much strength that when they saw how weak he was, a lot of people started to actually start talking about letting him go.
Yeah.
And that has been the theme here in South Africa. There's actually a newspaper headline in one of the big newspapers here saying, "Time to let him go." And I think for the very first time, South Africans are starting to talk about that openly, something that was taboo a couple of months ago.
Yeah, for sure. And I see that also his wife has cancelled an appointment in London so she can be by his bedside. Of course, our thoughts are both with the Mandela family and with all of South Africa. Thank you very much indeed, Nkapeli Mbabuse from CNN.